Hey, everybody, and welcome back to For the B-oos.
For the booze.
For the B-oos.
For the turkey coma.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so full.
So for you, the listeners, it will not be the day after Thanksgiving.
But it will be for us.
But it is for us as we are recording. And because I worked all day on Thanksgiving, we had our turkey dinner tonight. And we are
so full.
So very full.
I'm dying over here.
It was so good, though.
But welcome back, Booze Crew, for another installment of the spooky. Anything new?
No.
Me either. I'm just going to throw it out there. Me either. A lot of research and done for this one, actually. And this week, I promised that we were going to do something. I could still be wrong. I'm not sure. But I haven't heard anybody cover this in a paranormal podcast context. I could be wrong. I just haven't seen it. And I thought it would be a cool one to do because there is some information on it. And it would round off our family haunting month. Well, I thought it would be. Anyways. So
I think it's perfect.
This week, we are traveling to snowy Colorado.
Yes.
To visit the family home of
Chris and Shan'ann Watts.
Yes, the Watts family murders.
Yes.
And if you've paid attention, there has actually a documentary came out within the last few months on Netflix about this.
Yes.
And some paranormal things have actually popped up within this. So we thought it would be fun to round off this month of family-style hauntings with this case, just because it is such a tragic, and it happened in such recent history, and it's got to be one of the worst things, honestly, I've heard of. So yeah, I mean, what makes you happier than the worst thing, things ever?
It's so rough. I actually followed this case very, very closely, and I don't know. I don't want to say I'm looking forward to doing this, but
I feel you. I have the same opinion of it
because yes, we do have to tell the story of what, how, and who these hauntings came to be.
Absolutely, it's a crazy one. But before we get into it, I actually have a promo I'd like to play.
Yay!
A promo, no story yet. But I have a promo I'd like to play. And this is from our friends from RKB Paranormal. And this is from their podcast, Life Beyond 6 Feet. So, here we go.
Are you a paranormal junkie? If so, then join me, Damian Christie, from RKB Paranormal, every Sunday morning at 6 a.m. as I talk ghost, hauntings, and all things spooky with paranormal teams, investigators, psychic mediums, and much, much more. Watch Life Beyond 6 Feet on YouTube and listen wherever you get your music and podcasts from.
Wow, guys, thank you so very much for sending that in.
Yeah,
we are
great.
Very, very much looking forward to listening and tuning in.
Well, I've listened. Maybe
I have not yet.
I've listened, and it actually is a really good show, and they've had some really good guests on there. So if you follow a lot of the mainstream paranormal or like other YouTube paranormal investigators, it's a show for you. You'll like it. I know that they had Cindy Kazaa on there.
Really?
Yes, and they also had, what's his name? Britt. Oh, man. His name is escaping me right now, but he's another pretty well-known guy. And I apologize for not being able to come up with your name. I've had a lot of turkey, and I'm very tired. But yes, they have had some very good, well-known paranormal people on their show. So go go support the show. It's worth it. It's a great show. We do have to get on to our show, though.
Yes.
And I think we should just get into this.
All right, let's do it.
Buckle up. It's a sad one. While normally in the beginning of this show, we cover the geographic part of where we talk about, this is the first time I'm almost certain that location has nothing to do with the possible haunting. In the small town of Frederick, Colorado, what is known as a statutory town was the most heinous crime that I can think of in modern history. One that would destroy a seemingly happy family and change the town forever. In the early hours of August 13th, 2018, American oil field operator Christopher Lee Watts murdered his pregnant wife Shan'ann, who was 34, by strangulation, and their 2 children, Bella, age 4, and Celeste, age 3, by smothering them. He buried his wife in a shallow grave near an oil storage facility and dumped his children's bodies into crude oil tanks. Watts initially maintained his innocence in his family's disappearance, but was arrested on August 15th after confessing to murdering Shan'ann in an interview with detectives. He would, of course, go on to admit to murdering his children. The summer of 2018 should have been an exciting one for the Watts family. Chris Watts at the time, who was 33, and his wife Shan'ann, who was 34, just found out they were expecting a son to join their 2 daughters, Bella and Celeste, in their suburban home of Frederick, Colorado, about 27 miles north of Denver. As the family balanced Chris's job as an operator at Anadarko Petroleum and Shanann's frequent business travels for the nutrition supplement company Lavelle, their lives centered around their daughters, as shown in Shanann's frequent Facebook posts. From the outside, they appeared to be a happy suburban family, but Shanann's friends had recently started hearing about trouble in the marriage. Still, no one could have ever guessed the brutal murders that were about to put an end to a seemingly happy family forever. Shan'ann would call Passaic, New Jersey, her hometown on Facebook, but later would move to North Carolina, where she and Chris met through social media. Quote, "I got a friend request from Chris on Facebook," she says in the Facebook video that was later released. "I was like, what the heck? I'm never going to meet him. Except, one thing led to another, and 8 years later, we have 2 kids. We live in Colorado, and he's the best thing that's ever happened to me." It was roughly 2 years later, on November 3rd, 2012, that the couple would tie the knot in Charlotte, North Carolina. And just 1 year later, the couple's first child, daughter Bella Marie Watts, would be born in Colorado. Quote, "Shan'ann was so excited to have her first baby girl. She spent every minute thanking God and taking care of her precious gift that the Lord had blessed her with," her obituary reads. With a combined income of $90,000 in 2014, in addition to credit card debt, student loans, and medical bills, the couple would file for bankruptcy in June 2015, stating that their $3,000 mortgage and $600 car payment took up most of their $4,900 in monthly expenses. Additionally, their homeowners association sued them for unpaid HOA fees. On July 17, 2015, their second daughter, Celeste, was born, nicknamed Cece. Celeste Catherine Watts would be a summer baby, also born in Colorado. Quote, "Oh, how Shan'ann was so excited to be able to have another child because of her battle with lupus," the family obituary reads. "She was determined to stay healthy, and with her love for her Celeste, every moment with her was a blessing." May 5th, 2018, in a 31-minute, 13-second long Facebook Live video, Shan'ann muses about family life, saying, quote, "I love waking up now on Saturdays, being able to enjoy my family," unquote, and talking about being excited about the upcoming summer in Colorado. Quote, "I can't believe everything in life happens for a reason, and I also believe people are placed in our life for a reason," she also says. And Chris can be seen playing with the girls in the live video. June 11th, 2018, in a video later released by 9 News, Shan'ann wears a shirt that says, quote, "Oops, we did it again," and surprises Chris with the news of her pregnancy. He can be seen reacting by saying, quote, "That's awesome," unquote. 6 days later, on June 17th, Shan'ann posts a Father's Day message to Chris on Facebook. Quote, "Chris, we are so incredibly blessed to have you. You do so much every day for us and take such great care of us. You are the reason I was brave enough to agree to number 3. From laundry to kids' showers, you are incredible, and we are so lucky to have you in our life. Happy Father's Day," unquote, the message says. While Chris and Shan'ann were living what seemed like the perfect happy life, in that same month, Chris would start talking to Nicole Kessinger, who at the time worked at Anadarko Petroleum's environmental department and would see the operators, including Chris, on the way to the fridge. Chris came by her office and struck up a conversation one day. They would have their first meeting outside of the office later that month. According to the Denver Post, Chris would see Kessinger about 4 or 5 times a week, and they would start a physical relationship in early July. Chris would tell Nicole that he's almost divorced. And later that month, while Shan'ann and the girls are out of town in North Carolina, he would tell Kessinger that the divorce was final. Insider reports that Kessinger goes to Chris's home for the first time on July 4th, and they have their first phone call on record on July 7th. They would also go on a date to Shelby American Collection Car Museum on July 14th and spend the night at Great Sand Dunes National Park on July 28th, all while his family was away. On July 30th, he would give her a love note before joining his family on vacation. Chris would send Kessinger several intense love letters, just weeks before he murdered his family. What's even hinted that 2018 would be a special year for him and Kessinger. In one of the notes, which was for Kessinger's birthday, Chris wrote, quote, "Your energy is so insane. You heat me up. You make me melt, then you cool me down like rain. Big things will happen this year. Dreams will come true," he added. Quote, "That smile, that laugh gets me every time. You are truly an amazing, inspirational, and electric woman that takes my breath away every time I see you. You are wonderful. Don't ever stop being you. Happy birthday," unquote. On another card, he quoted lyrics from songs Love You Like That by Cannon Smith and Down to Earth by Through the Root. Quote, "When I'm around you, I can feel peace in the atmosphere. You keep my engine roaring when you're pushing on the pedal," unquote, he wrote. Also writing, quote, "You bring me right back down to earth." And yet another steamy note, Chris couldn't help but gush over Kessinger's qualities. Quote, "Wow, where do I even start? The first day I saw you, you took my breath away. The first day I had the guts to talk to you, I got lost in those stunning green eyes. The first day we hung out in the park together, I knew I was addicted," he wrote in another letter. Quote, "The first time we kissed, I knew I had met the most amazing, unique, and electric woman ever," he continued. Quote, "We have a lot of firsts together, Nikki, and I want to keep having them with you. All night till the sun comes back. I want to love you like that. Love, Chris." It was on July 31st that Chris would fly to North Carolina to finally join his family. Despite it being a family vacation, texts that Shan'ann forwarded to a friend showed signs of trouble between the couple. Further messages also showed that there was tension between her and Chris's parents. August 4th, just weeks after they started talking, Kessinger's cell phone data shows she looked at wedding dresses online for 2 hours. After confiding to friends on August 9th about her troubles with Chris, Shan'ann texts a friend that she and Chris had their, quote, "best talk yet." Before she leaves on a business trip to Arizona, she even drafts a handwritten letter to him. Records would show that just 2 days later, on August 11th, while Shan'ann is away, Chris would get a babysitter, saying that he's going to a baseball game with coworkers, but instead goes to a bar to meet with Miss Kessinger. In the wee hours, around 2 a.m. on August 13th, friend Nicole Atkinson gives Shan'ann a ride to her home on the 2800 block Saratoga Trail after she returns from her business trip. Later that morning, Chris wakes Shan'ann, and he's getting ready to go to work, and he wants to talk about their marriage and future, according to his later confession. Despite Shan'ann carrying their unborn son, who they had already named Nico Lee, he tells her about his affair and that their marriage was ending. Shan'ann would tell Chris he won't see his kids again, and it is then that he decides he's going to strangle her to death. Bella, who was 4, would come in and ask what was wrong with Mommy as Chris wrapped Shan'ann in a blanket and carries her to his truck. He puts the 2 kids in the back seat and drives to his work site. He then smothered Celeste in the back seat and put her body in an oil tank and does the same with Bella in another tank. Chris also buried his wife's body in the ground nearby, as he would later confess from prison. Chris later tells Denver ABC affiliate, quote, "I left for work early that morning, like 5:15 to 5:30, unquote, admitting that he and Shan'ann had an, quote, emotional conversation, unquote. Later that day, Atkinson would become worried when she didn't hear from Shan'ann. Quote, "I called her and texted her several times. I knew she had a doctor's appointment that morning because she was pregnant. She didn't show up for it, and I was even more concerned," she says. Shan'ann and the kids would be reported missing at around 1:40 p.m. Chris FaceTimed with Kessinger on the day of the murders and explained that he was, quote, "cleaning his home." However, Kessinger didn't think anything was off since he always made sure things were tidy. Miss Atkinson would go on to call the police to do a welfare check. Shanann's phone, keys, and purse were found at the house. According to the news stations, Chris Watts says, quote, "She said she was going to a friend's house with the kids, and that's the last thing I heard. And that was it. It was very vague," unquote. Just one day later, on August 14th, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation issues an endangered missing alert, and Chris talks to Denver's ABC affiliate and pleads for their return. Quote, "Shan'ann, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, just come back. Like, if somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody. Again, this house is not complete without anybody here. Please bring them back," unquote. The FBI would join the search for the missing mother and daughters. Chris then fails a polygraph test and confesses to his father, Ronnie, and then officials, that he killed Shan'ann, but falsely claims that the reason for the murder was because she had smothered their daughters. And it would be just 2 days later, on August 16th, the 3 murdered bodies were recovered at Chris's worksite. The same day, Chris appeared in Weld County Court for a bond hearing and is denied. Also on the same day, Kessinger speaks to police saying, quote, "I legitimately think his cheese was sliding off his cracker long before he met me," unquote. While chatting with authorities, Kessinger was upset that Watts had led her on the whole time. Quote, "It's not fair. It wasn't fair to me in the first place. It wasn't fair to her in the first place. It wasn't fair to any of us in the first place. You know," she told authorities, referring to Watts' lies. Quote, "It wasn't fair to his family for him to have an affair. It wasn't fair to me to have him lie to me and make me think that everything is going according to plan. And still, to this day, I don't even know what's a lie and what's not. I don't even know if there were, filing for divorce. I don't know if they were putting the house up. I don't even know. I don't even know anymore what is real and what is not," unquote. 1 week after he pleaded for their safe return, on August 21st, Chris would be charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, plus 2 additional first-degree charges for victims being 12 or younger. Additionally, he faced another count for the unlawful termination of a pregnancy, plus 3 counts of tampering with a body, a total of 9 charges in all. On September 1st, 2018, Shan'ann, Bella, and Celeste would be remembered at their funeral at the Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Pinehurst, North Carolina. During the 90-minute ceremony, which started with a singing of Amazing Grace, Chris was never mentioned. The priest would read a statement from Shanann's father, Frank Ruchik. Quote, "You are nothing but pure love, always caring for everyone. You will always be Daddy's little girl," unquote. 5 days later, on November 6th, Chris appeared in court and would plead guilty to all 9 criminal accounts. Shanann's family requested that the death penalty not be sought after. And on November 19th, 2018, just 3 months and 6 days after he took his family's lives, Judge Marcelo Kopkow calls the murder spree, quote, "perhaps the most inhumane and vicious crime I have handled out of the thousands of cases that I've seen," unquote, issuing 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole, including 48 years for unlawful termination of Shan'ann's pregnancy and 36 years for disposing of the bodies of his family. Also on this day, Shan'ann's parents would file for wrongful death against Chris. In a 5-hour interview from prison, Chris would recount the details of his younger daughter's final moments and confesses to killing them and disposing their bodies. Quote, "This was like the epitome of being angry, the epitome of showing rage, the epitome of losing your mind," unquote, he said, even admitting that older daughter Bella asked if he was going to do the same thing that he did to his sister, and that the 4-year-old tried to fight back. Now, this is the first time we've covered a story that actually made me emotional writing it. As many of you listening are parents, mothers and fathers, and myself being a father, it's hard to imagine ever doing this to your family. So, with emotions so high from one situation that can affect people all over the globe, what could it have left behind at the family home? Everything from fear to anger, to pure animosity. It's hard to think that they didn't stain the walls in the Colorado home. It's doubtful that anybody out there would think Chris didn't get what he deserved, and yet a life sentence just doesn't seem like enough for this man. We couldn't imagine what Shan'ann's family is going through, not just for losing a daughter, but your grandchildren as well, and our hearts definitely go out to them. And even Miss Atkinson losing a best friend through senseless violence. There's no mystery to this one, Booze Crew. This one undoubtedly happened. There's no question of the past when it comes to the Watts family. The only question there could be here for you is, do you believe that this is enough to leave behind the remnants of the past? Is there a message that they were trying to convey? And will they ever be able to truly rest at peace? And that's the story of the Watts family. It's a hard one to read.
Like I said, I followed this story very closely while it was happening, but a lot after too. And still hearing those bits and pieces of the story, even though I know more, is hard. And I would think that, I don't know, why wouldn't there be a reason to stay behind and let their truth be known?
I think, we always talk about all these, like, hauntings and stuff and, like, the land and whatever or any stuff happening within the home.
Mm-hmm.
And this was such a high profile, like, there were so many emotions involved in this. And it just seemed like the world was focused in on this one house.
Yep.
And we're going to hear some more things in your side of this that are going to... I can't really get my point across until you read your stuff, but there was a lot of energy from everywhere just being focused in on this one family and this one house in Colorado. And if we think that all these other smaller things, or maybe not smaller, but let's say older things that happened in other locations were enough, I mean, this would have definitely been enough. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but they're trying to sell this house. This is a almost $800,000 house, and the last time they tried to sell it, the auctioning was at $400,000 or something like that.
Wow.
And nobody will buy it.
I don't blame them.
It's such a beautiful house.
It is a beautiful house.
I really think they should just knock it down.
I don't know. This is a tough one.
I think they should knock it down. Or maybe knock it down and put up a memorial,
absolutely.
Maybe a little park, you know, to Shan'ann and
like
and
a
her kids.
neighborhood park or something for the kids.
Something like that, for them to remember the family. But, man, this is just such a terrible one. I actually think this is the worst one only because it's so new, and this is something that we can all remember.
And it's just so bad.
Well, there's
awful.
There's a few cases. I mean, this and even like the Powell case, out in Utah and Washington. That's another one. It's just, out of those two, those are just like some of the worst ones I can think of. And I don't know if it's just because it's modern times or if because 2 little children were murdered in both of them, or it's probably that, honestly, and I don't know. It's just a rough one, but that's the story of it. We could sit here and talk about it, but we do have to move forward.
We do.
So what do you think? We get into your stuff now?
Should we? move into the spooky?
Let's move into the spooky.
All right.
And now, time for an ad break.
And now, back to our show. The hit Netflix documentary, American Murder, The Family Next Door, tells the horrifying true story of the 2018 Watts family murders, when the seemingly devoted suburban father, Chris Watts, murdered his wife, Shan'ann, as well as their 2 young daughters and their unborn son. Using many of the social media videos filmed by Shan'ann Watts herself, along with the footage taken from other publicly available sources, director Jenny Popplewell created a harrowing account of the family's last weeks. The show has consistently been ranked among the streaming services as one of the top 10 most watched programs since its September 30th premiere. Quote,
I went straight to Shanann's Facebook page, and she's still alive on there, and feels like everybody else, you know? I decided that rather than our film telling people what to think, we could just show them,
Jenny told Yahoo Entertainment in a recent interview. One of those is the video Shan'ann shared on June 11th, 2018, of the moment she surprised Chris with the news they were expecting their 3rd child. Just days later, she uploaded another video featuring 4-year-old Bella singing the song, My Daddy is a Hero. Both were recorded just 2 months before he would tragically end their lives. But it's the body cam footage taken the day Shan'ann and her kids disappeared that is the most intriguing. It was recorded by the officer who responded to a call from Shanann's friend Nicole on August 13th, 2018. She had dropped off her friend at 2 a.m. that day, after the pair had returned from a business trip. After she failed to hear from Shan'ann later that morning, she got a terrible feeling that something was wrong. Her instincts proved she, unfortunately, was right to worry. Nicole rang police to request a welfare check on the Watts home in Frederick, Colorado, and before she knew it, she was wandering through Shanann's home with police, looking for clues alongside Chris, who was acting strange. At one point in the video, Nicole finds Shanann's phone and hands it to Chris, who turns it on while shifting nervously in place. But what's really interesting are some very invested viewers claiming to have discovered a ghost story hiding inside Popplewell's true crime tale. The UK tabloid, the Daily Mail, discovered a YouTube video posted by a man named Arthur Cant that calls attention to this supposed phantom who appears on police body cam footage filmed after Shan'ann and the kids' initial disappearance. As the investigating officers look around the house and ask questions of visibly nervous Chris, the figure of a small girl can allegedly be spotted moving around in a dark back room. Quote,
You can clearly see a little girl.
End quote, Cant writes below the video, implying that it's the ghost of one of Chris's daughters, who he would later confess to killing. In the comments, others noted that the light in the room directly across from Chris seemingly turns off by itself at the half-minute mark, right before the young girl is first spotted in the background. Quote, That was wild, one freaked-out commenter said about this apparent double dose of paranormal activity. Luckily, there are plenty of folks who aren't afraid of watching the video. Cant's frame-by-frame analysis was contracted by multiple people who noticed that the ghost girl was most likely the young and very much alive daughter of Watts' family friend, Nicole Atkinson, who first alerted to the Frederick, Colorado police to Shanann's disappearance. Quote, The child is definitely Nicole's daughter, end quote, wrote one commenter. Quote, There's police video of her daughter with Nicole outside of the house when Chris Watts pulls up to the house with his truck. You can see her daughter in her clothes and hair match perfectly with the little girl upstairs. Later seen in several places outside and
in the other guy's arms heading downstairs in the body cam footage. He even says, "She's just playing," and gestures to the back room where the daughter is seen.
End quote. One woman in the comments section referred to another YouTube clip that shows investigators searching the Watts family home with police dogs. The clip was posted in 2018 when the investigation was taking place in the house. This clip was not part of the Netflix documentary. At the 10-second mark, they hear what sounds like a child giggle. Both of the investigators agreed that they heard the laugh and noted it in their records. The police officer can be heard saying, "Yes, I heard that." Although most of the comments were skeptical, one commenter claimed that Nicole Atkinson's daughter wasn't at the welfare check, only her son was. Quote,
There's also footage from 2 women police officers with a dog in a closet, in which the officers clearly heard a little girl's giggle. One of the officers says, "Oh my gosh, what was that?"
end quote. In this video, a canine unit sniffs through Shan'ann Watts' closet to try and pick up her scent. When one of the officers hears the giggle, she asks her partner to stand in the closet and see where the sound came from about 20 seconds into the video. They even think it could have possibly been a child's toy, but looking around further, they found nothing. It is very obvious that it wasn't added in through editing, as it was the original uncut video of the police body cams. And also, at this point, they didn't yet know that Shan'ann and the girls were dead, only that they were missing. A transcript of what was said is as follows. The canine handler enters behind the dog, who immediately went into the closet. Then, at 23 minutes and 44 seconds, you can clearly hear a little girl giggle. Canine handler.
Oh my gosh, what in the world was that? Go in there and step on that blue thing and see if you can...
Videographer.
Yeah, it sounded like a kid toy.
Canine handler.
Yeah, it sort of sounds like it.
Videographer.
Something. I heard it.
Canine handler.
Did you hear it?
Videographer.
I did.
Canine handler.
It sounded like a kid giggling or something, didn't it?
Videographer.
It did.
Canine handler.
Because all he did was go straight in there. Well, that was strange. We're making a note of that.
Videographer.
I heard it. I definitely heard the same thing you did.
Here's what's interesting. First, the trained search dog's excited reaction of panting and tail wagging, rather than his training to bark. Note, when he headed straight for the closet, he suddenly loudly pants excitedly, wagging his tail. This isn't training. It's a natural behavior for dogs when they see something they like when they're greeting another dog or a human, or see something they're interested in, like food. Remember, he's trained to ignore all distractions, even food, when he's on the job looking for evidence, barking loudly when he finds the scent they're looking for. Also, there's the handler's reaction to the sound when she hears it. She freezes, stopping in her tracks. She appears visibly slightly rattled, and though she nervously laughs about it when the videographer suggests it's a toy, she jets out of the closet to go with the dog. She's clearly a little spooked and doesn't seem too convinced it was a toy. Those who followed the case know that Watts strangled Shan'ann and threw his pregnant wife in a shallow grave, where she reposed in a fetal position. He then comes back to his truck, where he proceeds to smother his 2 daughters and threw their bodies into separate oil tanks. Given this, another seemingly unremarkable scene takes on a suddenly poignant meaning. Conspiracy theorists have noticed that in a clip where Watts was reviewing his neighbor's CCTV footage with the police the morning after his family had gone missing, before the actual footage rolls, the TV first shows an image of a fetus and then a skull in a pool of oil. Some speculate this could be a message from beyond the grave. Quote,
Shan'ann was communicating through the veil. They can do that. I've seen it so many times. You just have to be open to it and pay attention. That was her telling what happened in the only way she could from her realm of existence to ours.
a YouTube viewer commented. On October 7th, 2020, popular YouTuber Franco TV uploaded a video of when he visited the Watts family home. He immediately opens up the video saying that this would not be the same as his normal content, saying that he originally planned to go just to pay his respects to the family. With his original plan of dropping off a teddy bear that he had purchased to lay on the porch in honor to the children, he goes on to state in the video that he captures something on the thermal camera that couldn't be explained. As he starts to drive down Saratoga Trail, he pulls up to the Watts home and places the teddy bear on the front doorstep. He goes on to speak to his live stream and decides to turn on the thermal camera pointed at the house. Panning the camera around for a few moments, someone asks if he can zoom in. He almost immediately spots something in the second floor, right window, and asks his chat if they can see it as well. As he starts to zoom in, it looks as if there's someone in the window. He pans to the front door, where it looks as if a face is looking out the right side window of the door. He tells a story about how a woman was spotted going into the house, but never seen coming back out. Police were called to the scene as they sweep the home, but there was nobody there. He shows the clip from the video of his occurrence, and you can see in the background that the garage lights are on despite nobody living there. As the police department enters the house, they start to ask if anyone's in the house, but receive no answer. The video pulls back into real time, where Franco is pointing the thermal camera at the upstairs window, where he's getting a heat signature from something looking out of the room. Clearly captivated by the image, the remainder of the video pretty much lingers, and for good reason. Could this have been one of the children, or possibly Shan'ann herself, looking out of her home? It's hard to say. This is probably the saddest of the stories that we've covered on this podcast. A truly pointless crime by an incredibly selfish man. It's sickening to watch the family videos, knowing what happened. 2 little girls who love their dad, and a faithful mother to be taken by what can only be described as a true monster. But what is happening within this house? Is it possible that all of this tragedy has left something behind? Are there questions that have gone unanswered? Unfortunately, that will all fade away with Chris Watts. But what is truly extraordinary about this isn't one of those things that has been covered on ghost hunting television shows. It hasn't been sensationalized in the world of the paranormal as of yet. So could this be the real thing? Could we have, by chance, caught the spirits of the Watts family? Are the girls and Shan'ann living back together in the home that once made them so happy? At least they can go on in peace, knowing that justice for this horrible and unjust crime was served.
I can't come in hot with something big for this. Such a sad story.
It is so sad. I had to read that a couple times.
Just to, I know we normally try to keep it sort of PG on here, but can I just say fuck that guy? That guy sucks.
He absolutely 100% sucks.
Yeah, fuck him. I don't,
Fuck
man.
him.
I
I'll
hope,
say it too.
I hope he rots in jail. He doesn't deserve to ever get out.
And I always forget, because most of the time when someone does a crime that horrible, and even a judge just flat out says it in the middle of a courtroom. It amazed me that her parents like waived the death penalty. I don't know if I could do that. I mean, I just want it to be like swift, done, gone.
See, I think their play was better, though, because they can spend the rest of their life knowing that they decided not to kill this guy, but they also get to know that he doesn't get the freedom of death either.
Right. And that's the other side of the coin. Like, what do you do? I mean,
I think they played it right, honestly.
I agree. I think in that moment, I would want the other.
No, I agree. No, I agree with that.
You know?
I mean, of course you want to see the guy gone, but
yeah.
there's really nothing worse than rotting away somewhere where literally every person in the world hates you.
Yeah.
You know?
And I don't know. I have seen that video of the two officers
Oh, we're about to listen to it. So cool.
going into the closet. And let me just tell you, it's
pretty impressive.
very, very interesting. I've listened to it many, many times. So I hope you, Booze Crew, enjoy listening to it as well.
You know what? I think this would be a good time to play it.
I do too.
Here we go.
Well, there's plenty of first thing to appeal.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What in the world was that? Wow. Go in there and step on that little blue thing and see if that's where that
Yeah, it sounded like a kid toy.
It might. It sort of sounds like it.
Something. I heard it.
That one. Did you hear it?
I did.
Sounded like a kid giggling or something, didn't it? Or a kid.
It did.
Where did that come from? Because all he did was go straight in there. That was strange, but we're making note of that.
I heard it. I definitely heard the same thing you did.
Yeah, and then he just sort of pressed around the bush. I bet he did a second that the register. Was she on any time? Oh, no, she was pregnant.
It's not quite the white girl theater you put on for us, but it's pretty. I mean, it's hard to deny
That sound.
that something happened.
Yes.
And I mean, it's easy to be like, oh, it was a kid's toy, but if it was that loud right there, how come they didn't find it right away?
Right. Like that had to have been right there.
Yeah, well,
Like as loud as that came across, it was almost louder than their voices.
the
came
thing
across.
is all right. So if everybody hasn't seen this video by now, when you watch it, she doesn't really go into the closet yet.
Right.
She's kind of like right there at the door. So it's weird that if there was, say, like a toy or something, in order for her to have hit it or something, it would have had to been in the doorway, because
Right
that's
there.
where she was.
Yes.
Was right in the doorway.
And bringing it back, let me remind you that
Remind me, sister.
Chris was always keeping the house neat, and Shan'ann was as well. And they were in the parents' room. They weren't in a kid's room.
Yeah, they were in the parents' room in the closet.
So,
It's very weird.
yeah. We have both also seen the Franco TV episode.
I've seen it twice now.
And I don't know, man. Thermal cameras, I know, are one of your absolute favorite
Yes.
paranormal equipment tools.
Yes. Well, I mean, because it's hard to argue with.
It is.
The things that are
Absolutely.
hard to argue with, because what is it picking up? It's picking up something, you know, and I guess you could fake it, but it's a little harder. I feel like it's a little harder, honestly, but I don't know. It's just, I feel like it's more valid when it comes through in an EVP.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know why. In my brain, it just registers that way, that it's more believable rather than, say, like an Ovilus that is just spitting words out, or even like, say, the necrophonic app, which I have mixed emotions about.
Yeah.
Or
For sure.
a lot of the things, honestly, like a lot of them are just like,
Ghost
very-
tube.
it's very
and stuff
random.
Like that. Yeah.
you know, where an EVP, they've been finding EVPs for I don't know, like 30 years, 40 years or
It's been
something.
a long time. I mean, from straight up tape recorders, big chunky tape recorders, to now, recording devices that we use today. There's been things that are just, you can't, especially on tape recorders, you can't put things like that in there. And you really can't on voice recorders that we use now either.
Yeah. It really is. Now there are other videos and stuff that I could play on here, but they are more visual media stuff.
Yes.
So
if you go and look, there is a video of, I believe it was from the call where the woman was seen going into the house and the police were called.
yeah.
And
You can see that.
They go in the front door.
Okay.
And through the front door.
I'm going to see if you're going to say what I think you're going to say. Go
Okay.
ahead.
They go in through the front door, and it's on a body cam footage. And the stairs, you can see them in the second floor landing where there's a railing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are hallways that go off to each side. It's very open, very big. It's a beautiful house.
Mm-hmm.
And the officer, there's a few in front of him, and the guy's body cam footage he's more towards the door on the first floor. And you can see a very quick, very small, child-sized shadow figure.
Okay, this is not what I thought you were going to say, but okay.
Kind of, I believe it's on the left-hand side. Pop out for just a second and go back down,
Okay,
like it's going back down the hallway.
I
It just
do-
gave me goosebumps.
I do know
explaining
what
it.
you're talking. I know exactly what you're talking
Yep.
about. But there's apparently a part in that clip, if you listen closely, you can hear a woman's voice say, I think it says run and hide.
Really?
Yes. And this was pointed out to me today by our good friend Rick over at Maximum Oddities.
Oh, thanks, Rick.
He sent me an article about, actually, let me look this up real quick. See if I can maybe find something that goes along with it. But yeah, we were talking about this today during our buddy phone calls.
Your boyfriend phone calls.
Sure. I'm not claiming that one. But yeah. Well, thank you, Rick. Perfect.
Did he send it to
He
you?
did.
Aw.
But it actually turns out that it's a reel. So
Oh, so it's the actual audio.
we're going to listen to it.
Perfect. Love it.
Here we go. I don't know how long it is, and I have not listened to this yet. So
Smells like cleaning, doesn't it? Smells like cleaning. Smells like cleaning. That's interesting. There's plenty of curves in here.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What in the world was that? Wow.
Something. I heard it.
this is
Did you hear it?
obviously feeding back into the clip that we already played.
Sounded like a kid giggling or something, didn't it? Or a kid.
It did.
So that's it. Now, it's hard to hear, and they're not like going back over and playing it again.
Right.
But it's the two initial investigators that we had listened to earlier, the ones that go in the closet, and it's when they first go into the house.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hear what sounds like a woman's voice say something, and then you hear the same woman's voice say, Chris. And then you hear a little girl's voice say, Mommy.
And it's all while they're talking about it smelling like the
Cleaning product, yes. And then that's actually the camera pans over right after that, and you see the shadow on the staircase. And then the two ladies with the dog go upstairs, and they enter the closet.
I have full body goosebumps. I do. Right now I do. It's
an amazing clip.
God.
It's an amazing clip. So there's lots of little gems out there when surrounding this one. So if you haven't looked into it, and I mean, clearly you're into the paranormal, you're listening to our show, so
Yes.
you should check it out on like social medias. Just Google it. Just Google up like Watts family murder paranormal and stuff like that. You will come across stuff. It's out there.
Absolutely.
But this is the one that I had been planning since the beginning of ending this one on, and it was an emotional one.
It was a very emotional one. Because I knew so much about it, I didn't think I would get emotional and I could just read it, but it's too much.
Yeah.
It is way too much, and it is so, so sad. And just to know that the paranormal is now feeding into all of it, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I was waiting. I do understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying. But listen, we could speculate back and forth and say all kinds of weird stuff. But I think what we really need to do at this point is... Is it real? Well, super sad, emotional buddy Steven, this super duper sad one with Megan.
Yes, that's me.
What do you think about the Watts family home in Frederick, Colorado? Do you think it's real?
I do. Absolutely 100%. I think it's real. I know that the girls weren't killed on the site, but they were buried in the same area as their mother, where she was buried on the grounds. They were only a few 100 feet away in the oil bins, right? Silos. Is that what those are?
The girls, they were like oil, barrels, I think.
Well, they were like the huge canisters that you see out in the oil fields.
I think they were tanks, or barrels.
Well, they were
whatever.
They were tanks. See, there was little doors that they opened, and
I meant barrels.
They had to let them come out, and they found them in there.
I was wrong, but I wanted to be on the record. I said barrels.
But I do. I absolutely think. I mean, it's from police body cam footage. It's kind of hard to deny. Yeah, it's a very sad story, and I think the paranormal side of it is definitely real. So what about you?
Does it matter? You said it's definitely real. All right, we'll catch you guys next week. Bye. I actually agree. I think this is probably the most real one we've covered.
Yes.
And the only reason I say that is because, well, we've covered other places, locations, stuff like that, that I have pretty strong feelings about it being real. This is the first time we're stuck into like a story that this one isn't popular because of paranormal stuff. This is popular for a true crime reason. It had nothing to do with paranormal. And a lot of this stuff was caught before anybody knew they were dead.
Yes.
You know, so it's not like, oh, the family was dead. Oh, well, let's make this up and let's throw this in here. No. This is all legit evidence that was caught before the world. Chris Watts was the only person who knew they were dead at this time. So it's really hard to argue that one, honestly, of all the things we've covered. It's really hard to argue that. So, yeah, I don't have a lot to say about this one. If there's going to be one that we've done all year that I think is real, I'm putting my money on this one.
I absolutely agree. And you said things way more better than way more better than I wanted to.
We don't live in the South, huh?
This is a very emotional case for me, and I don't know.
It's hard.
Why? I mean, it's awful. I didn't expect to get so emotional just reading this.
I have written, I don't know, 48 of these so far. Something like that. I don't know. Somebody correct me. I don't know, 48. Actually, probably, yeah, about 48 of them. I've never literally had one made me feel emotional and had to stop and teared up until this one. This is the first one that's really affected me in that kind of way. And I think it's because living in this house just a few years ago, we were watching this happen in real time, in real life.
Yep.
And we're parents. We have children. And I was having that conversation with Rick today, and the thing that I didn't understand about Chris Watts is not that I find it, not that there's anything in the world that you could do to justify killing your wife, but how could you kill your children? I battled back and forth about playing the video of the little girl singing "My Daddy Is a Hero," but I honestly don't think I can listen to it.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
I don't think I can do it. I have daughters. I would kill somebody for them. I would never kill them. So Chris Watts, if for some reason you ever got to listen to this, you're a fucking piece of shit. And I hope you rot away in that jail cell. And I hope everybody that comes in contact with you for the rest of your life shits on you. And
agreed.
So, oh yeah, I was going to roll it out from there, but with my beautiful poetry, I think we should give this one
the big old seal of approval.
And yeah, so that's where we're going to end it. Sorry if this bummed anybody out. It bummed us out for sure.
Very much so.
But we actually have something kind of special coming up for the month of December.
Yay.
I struggled with what I wanted to do for the show. So I don't know how many of you listening are here from day one or have gone back and listened to day one, but I'm sure you will not disagree with us that the first couple episodes are garbage.
They are, and it's like the first 10 or so.
It is, but the first 3 are real bad.
We just kind of sat down and said, "Yep, we want to do this."
That was the thing. We had no direction at the time.
Yeah.
We didn't know what kind of. All we knew is it was going to be a paranormal podcast, and we were going to do a litany of things. We were going to do locations and this and that. And while we mainly have started to focus on locations, we will probably bring back and start doing some other things like YouTube channels and stuff. But this is kind of our bread and butter, if you will. Like this is what we like to talk about. Is we have a whole story behind it, and we can ask each other at the end whether or not we think it's real. So what we want to do for you guys, for you loyal people, since it'll be the ending of our very first year of podcasting, is we will be taking the week of Christmas off, but we're going to redo the first 3 episodes. Yay. So we're going to redo Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, and then the one I am most excited for, because I was super excited when we did it, we're going to redo and do a much better job at Waverly Hills.
Oh, Waverly Hills. I'm so excited.
Which is still, actually, it's one of our most listened to episodes.
It is.
It is. So
it really is.
I have my work cut out for us, because if people already like it and I think we can do better, I better deliver.
Well, our show has evolved so very much since the beginning, and it has become our little baby.
It is.
And we kind of...
This is my job.
Want to redo the beginning some justice.
This has literally become my job. I work on this podcast probably like 33 hours a week.
Yes. He absolutely does.
From researching to editing, I am always doing stuff for the show. And I love it.
You do it all day.
I do love it. I love doing this show. It is a lot of fun. I take a lot of pride in it. I love telling people about it. And I love the fact that everybody listens to us talk and listen to us go on for 20 minutes at the end, rambling.
Which we have been rambling, but we did want to tell you our next future endeavors.
That's right. So the next one's going to be Ghost Adventures. So buckle up for that one. But this is where we're going to end it. So where can they find us?
They can find us on Instagram at @forthebooze_podcast and on Facebook at @forthebooze.
You can also find us on Twitter at @forthebooze. No matter what Elon Musk does to that platform, I will still be there taking bullets for you people. And don't forget, if you'd like to semi-watch, listen to us over at YouTube, it's also at @forthebooze. And please, people, at least to make the end of the year special, send us your spooky stories or show suggestions or love letters. Does my voice do it for you? I hope so. Send those to forthebooze12@gmail.com. And what else should they do? I think they should give us 5 stars.
Rate and review. It helps us out a whole lot.
That's right. We're still trying to move up, guys.
We are.
Hit us up on the Apple Podcast. That's where we like to see them. But I'll take them on Spotify. I'll take them on Spreaker. I don't care. I'll take them wherever you want to give them. 5 stars. Let us know we're doing a good job. Say some nice stuff, or I don't know, say some bad stuff, but leave the 5 stars either way. So I guess this is where we're going to head out on this one.
I think it is.
They go cry somewhere. It was an awful story.
It was. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. Sorry if we bummed you out this week.
Bummed me out.
But we will see y'all in the next one.
I guess we'll see you next one. Bye.